We're here with Fred Ozen for the third volume, and we're going to talk about living with regret. So on the last one, we were talking about the story that you make up, right? And how people have a tendency to cost themselves higher results because of playing the victim and living in this headspace where they don't have to be beholden to their results. And I think that there's similar traits when it comes to living with regrets because it is about the story that you make up. And so I have ample amounts of things in my life that at one point I lived in regret about the way that I behaved, about the things that I did, about the things that I didn't do. And it cost me a lot. And now I'm in a position in my life where I look at it and I'm like, well, thank God that happened. Like, thank God it went down the way that it did, because now I'm at a place where I'm actually happy with life, which took me 30 something, 40 years to get to. So with all the things that you've done, counterintelligence, working for Psi Seminars as a facilitator, you're an entrepreneur, you've done over 100 hours of NLP work. What is something somebody should hear that's currently thinking about right now as they're listening to this, one specific thing that they regret? What should they do to attempt to reframe that?
So I think when you're reframing it, like, so, we've had businesses that failed, right? There's things don't go well all the time. I've had relationships that fail. I've had all kinds of things. And when you're thinking about events that occur, situations that happen, and you're in regret, you wouldn't be the person you are today had that not happened.
Right.
And did I want it to happen? Was it nice? Was it? No. But if you look at it from that perspective, like, sometimes when people have a bad upbringing, right, that upbringing forces them to behave in a certain manner. Like, they have to be more self-sustaining. They have to be more motivated. They have to be, right? They can go one of the other ways, right? They can do, go life of crime too, or they tend to get more driven, right, because they don't want to be there. Well, had they not been in those unfortunate circumstances, they may not have had that same desire, motivation, whatever you want to call it, to do something different.
But even there, you're assigning unfortunate circumstances, right?
Yeah, because, well, that's what people look at, right? They come, you have a abusive childhood, your family leaves, you get raised in a foster home, right? That's the term they use. But at the end of the day, many times, so I always say, like, hey, if the foster care system or being abused or whatever caused you to be X, if that was true, then everybody that had that same situation happen would all be in the same boat.
Right.
So it's not the situation, it's what the meaning that you assign to it. And then what happens as we get older, right, we keep making choices based on our past that put us in certain situations, and then we go see, and then we live in this regret. Like, if this hadn't have happened, things would be different. And versus it's a learning lesson, right? This happened, those events occurred, and I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for those events. So most people, again, want to absolve themselves of responsibility. So what do? They blame, and then they get to live in regret, because then they get to say, well, if they hadn't have done that, or if I hadn't have been there, or if I'd have been raised differently, or if the boss didn't fire me, or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Whatever thing happened that they're regretful of, right? By the way, you made choices to get you there. When you look at it from a neutral position, right, being able to look back on your life and go, okay, those things didn't happen to me, they happened for me.
Right.
Then you can live your life in a different mode versus living in regret and guilt and shame. There's no growth in guilt, shame, blame game, right? I just get to feel sorry for myself and hope other people feel sorry for me, because then I get to be right about feeling bad. Versus if I'm living my life by design, well, it happened, and can I do something different? Look at things that have happened to people that are really horrible, that you think is horrible, and yet they become an advocate for this or a spokesperson for that, or they go out and they start to make a change in the world because something happened to them.
Right.
That's a choice they made. Like, I don't want this to happen to anybody else. I'm going to go be a spokesperson. I'm going to go do something about it. Like, we wouldn't even have MAD, right, if it hadn't been for some kid who's died in a drunk driving accident, and the mom said that's enough. Right.
And so it's very much tied in with what you're saying about the story that you make up, right? So you can assign that woe is me mentality, or you can get motivated and do something to change those things that you don't like.
Yep.
I grew up in extreme violence, organized crime, so on and so forth, drug addiction, all that. And it led me to be in a place where I never wanted to do hard drugs because I saw the results that it brought other people, right? And I could get in that woe is me phase and, I'm the product of this and I'm the product of that. And I literally had an aunt and uncle bet that I would be in prison by the time that I turned 18 because of my upbringing. And it's not for lack of opportunity. I absolutely could have done a lot of things that could have landed me there. And I chose against that because that wasn't the life that I wanted. Right. And so you're saying to live by design, and part of that design is to reframe these things that have happened to you / for you. The things that you've experienced can now be the things that make your future experiences better. And so I
think when bad things happen to people and they can bounce back, it builds in them resilience.
Right.
Versus, so you have a choice, right? You can be resilient, you can bounce back. Okay, I'm going to do something different. Or you can live in decay. Oh my God, I can't, and you could choose another path. So everything is a choice. You get to choose. And I think people forget that they have the choice. They think things are just happening to me. It's happened by happenstance. There's all these serendipitous things happening in my life that are negative, yada, yada, yada. Not knowing that they created that.
And that's very much to what I was going to say, is that in framing the experiences that you've had, if you frame it from a light that it motivates you, would you still consider that a regret, or would you consider that a positive regret?
No, I wouldn't even consider it a regret. It's just a learning lesson, right? As long as you're using it as regret, means that you wish that it hadn't happened. You're in resistance to what is.
Right.
Because the event happened. You can't change it. There's nothing that you're going to do to change that event didn't happen. So I'm not saying the event didn't happen. Your choice is how you're going to handle that event. And so when some people, let's say they get mugged or robbed or something happens to them, they have some choice, right? How they handle it. Some people will carry it with them, right? They won't go outside. They're like their whole psyche change, and they become victim to that event.
Right.
And other people use that event to go, I don't want this to happen. I'm going to go do something different about it.
Right.
So I don't think it's a regret at all. I think it's a, hey, this happened to me. I want to make sure that it either doesn't happen to someone else, or if it does, it does not have to mean the end of your life.
And that has been something that I've seen people struggle with when it comes to that concept of ultimate responsibility, right? Because there's somebody that's listening right now that's going, but you don't know my story. You don't, no. There's no way that you could spin what happened to me as a positive. And that might be true, but it's their choice on whether it's a positive or negative result moving forward. If you choose, if someone is assaulted and I don't mean like punched.
Right.
Right?
No, I get it. Yeah.
If someone's assaulted, how are you possibly going to make that positive? Well, you can choose to never allow yourself to experience that again. You can choose to get motivated to stop that from happening to anyone else. And then it might not make that, it's not going to make that go away. But what it is going to help you with understanding that you don't have to live in a cycle of that fear. And you can rewrite that experience into something that has then motivated you to do better for the world. And your legacy is left behind where you have done all that you can to stop that from being an experience that somebody else has to go through.
Well, I think, everybody, it's not what happens to you. So you get assaulted, get raped. If you're sitting at the stoplight and somebody smashes in your car, you're not doing anything wrong. I'm not saying the event didn't happen, and I'm not saying you weren't a victim in that event.
Right.
But it's the victim consciousness going forward that you have a choice in. And a lot of people will choose the consciousness of victim because they get a payoff. Or you can choose something different, right? The event did happen, right? I'm not going to let it stop me from living my life. I'm not going to let it stop me from living my dream, right? It happened for a reason. I may not know what the reason is at the moment, and it may be some time before, but you don't have to live with regret dragging that around like it's some backpack filled with rocks.
So what are you going to say to the man that's listening to you right now and goes, this guy doesn't know anything. He doesn't know my circumstance. She cheated. She left. She took the kids. She took all the money. This guy's full of it. He doesn't know my story.
I'd say, what did you do to cause that?
And he's going to go into full victim mode, right?
I mean, he has a choice. He can go into full victim mode. I didn't do anything wrong. Okay.
But yet your results are still there, aren't they?
Right. And I just say it's okay. Because they want to be right. And you're not going to be able to argue with somebody who wants to be right.
Right.
So if they want to be a victim, I just go, okay.
With this podcast, we want to reach those people, right? So what can Fred Ozen say to them right now to rattle their cage, to break them out of this concept of it's everybody else's fault but my own, the results that I've been getting?
Well, I just say, is it possible? Is it possible that in the grand scheme of the endless number of solutions and possibilities, is it possible that your way of thinking is incorrect? That there's another way? Is it possible?
Right. The big tipping point for me in my path, choosing to go to Psi Seminars Basic, which you're one of the facilitators of, right, was actually your wife. And she was giving a presentation on what the basic is about. And she was talking about the formulation of the brain and the neural pathways and the age and all that. And that something like 90% of those pathways are formed by the time that you hit 18. And I was, I think, 35 or 34 at the time. And I sat in that. And that was what I told you when she said that. It shook me because to me, I said, wait, so I'm living this 35-year-old man's life with a 90% likelihood that I'm acting like a child in my responses. Maybe there is something there. Maybe I should shut up and listen for a moment and realize maybe there is some work to be done. And it's changed everything for me.
Is it possible there's a different perspective, right?
Right.
It's if you're unwilling to look and be on and say maybe there is something different, then you'll always be the same.
Right.
And if you want to live in regret and disappointment and sorrow and anger, and then that's your choice.
Well, and in fairness as well, I doubt the type of man that's looking up this podcast is the type of man that's just stuck in resistance and in their shit. Like, more than likely, they are looking for some type of support to live a better life and be a better man.
Right. And I say it a lot. Like, if you want I always learn from other people. So when I was getting married, I'm going to go find a new network of people that are married,
Right.
men,
Right.
because my single friends aren't going to answer questions very well about marriage, right? When I became a dad, I started looking at other men that had children because I want to learn from their experience.
Right.
So being around other people, like when I make $1 million, I want to hang around people that make 5. When I make 5, I want to hang around people that make 10. Like I always want to be the stupidest person in the world. So if you are willing to learn, that means that you're willing to learn about yourself. And if
Right.
you're willing to learn about yourself, you can look and say, maybe, just maybe, possibly, some of the choices I made caused the results that I have. Okay, it was 90% them, still 10% you. What's your 10%, right?
Right.
Like at a minimum, right, being willing to do that and go, okay, what's that look like? And if you're around other people that have been there and done that, around other people that have a different kind of lifestyle, right, then you can maybe hear something from their experience that goes, okay, if they can do it, I can do it too.
Yeah.
But I have to be willing to do it differently. You work with people, you want to get their body type different, their composition, get them in better shape. But if I constantly say, no, I know that already. Oh, I know. You don't know my situation. I
Right.
have to eat this.
Right.
At some point, you got to go, I can't work with you.
Quite frankly, that's happened on more than one occasion.
Right. If they don't want to at least see something different, like,
Yeah.
so we have a cruise missile that'll go, 2,200 miles and hit a target within 10 feet.
Mm-hmm.
If I change the azimuth of that cruise missile by 3 degrees, what's it look like 2,200 miles downrange?
Oh, it's way off target.
It's not even on the same continent,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So when we're talking about personal development, we're talking about, I'm not asking you to make radical shifts.
Mm-hmm.
Change your life by 3 degrees.
Right.
See what happens at the end of 30 days, 60 days, 90 days if you think a different way. Could it produce a different result? Could it possibly? I'm just asking.
I always like the argument when I have new clients and there is hard resistance. Cool, prove me wrong.
Yeah.
Just do it and then show me that I'm wrong. Yeah. And if I'm wrong, cool, let's redirect.
Because I'll learn
I've been doing
something.
this for 10 years. I'm not going to be wrong, but I'm open to the idea that I might be in this particular. Sure, you could be a different equation, right? Because everybody is their own variable. I'm with you, Eddie.
I kind of don't like that you said that to me last week, actually.
Right.
It's a very neutral way to challenge someone who is in hard resistance or is convinced that they're right. I also like you had pointed out earlier. Actually, I think it was Eddie, and he long formed it, but it was, what am I getting out of it, and what is it costing me?
Yeah.
That resistance, what do you get? You getting something from it? Is it the result that you want? Yes or no?
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah.
If you want to be more effective in your life, wherever it's at, in order to get to the next level, you have to change how you think. And most people are unwilling to do that. So it's just like the athletes we talked about earlier. They have an open mind. Okay, maybe there's a different way I can do my swing. There's a different way I can skate. There's a different way I can, whatever their game is, right? If there's something more I want to know, I want to know. They're always willing to look. They're always willing to be a beginner. If you're willing to be a beginner, it means you're willing to be a beginner in your own life. Okay, maybe what I thought, right, was my quote truth, which I hate that, but it was my belief structure.
My experience.
Maybe what I've been saying to myself, I could say something different and produce a different result. I ask people all the time, do you talk to yourself? And they're like, well, yeah. I go, what are you saying? See, because if you spoke to me the way that I speak to me, we might be doing 3 rounds in the parking lot. Mm-hmm. So when do you want that cycle to end? And to have a different conversation with yourself versus that. And then, if you're open to it, then the possibility exists. And when you when you open up your mind to other possibilities, then guess what floods in?
Different
other possibilities,
no.
right?
So do you think that it takes you being in a place of solace and a place of peace with who you are as a man before you're able to look at your life and go, there was no accidents, it all happened on purpose, I don't have regrets, I just have experiences?
Well, I think what happens, so here's my philosophy. There's no growth without resistance.
Right.
Otherwise, you'd just be doing it, right? So if there's resistance, it means that you're resisting what happened. So that's where the growth is, to be able to feel the resistance. So you know this, being in the military. Courage is not the absence of fear.
Right.
Courage is feeling the fear and doing it anyway.
Yeah.
So same thing when you're looking at your life. I can be resistant to the idea that it was not my fault, right? That it was all hers, but I'm willing to look at it. I'm willing to do something different. And if you can do that, then that's where the growth happens, because then maybe you can see a different perspective. Just like my little golf analogy, if I look at myself from a different perspective, I see something different. When I have the blinders on and I only see things one way, then that's all I see. And there's no possibility for anything to come in because I have these blinders on and I want to be right. I might still be in resistance. It's like you said, prove me wrong. However, if I'm willing to go out there and take a risk, then maybe I could see something different. If I could see something different, then maybe I can produce a different result by thinking differently and making different choices.
I love it.
And most people don't want to do it because it's uncomfortable. It takes rigor and discipline. They have to be willing to do it. They have to be willing to do it. They have to be willing to do it.
But you can't have a breakthrough without a breakdown.
Right. I mean, yeah, you're not going to, like I said, you're not going to have any break. If there's no resistance, there's no growth.
Right.
Think about all the firsts in your life, right? First time you asked somebody out. First time you took it to kiss. First time you went to swim, right? Was it great? Was it perfect? Was it even close? Right? You were all over the place.
Right.
It's the same thing here. If you're willing, at least it's a first time. It might not be the perfect solution, but at least it was different than the choice I made before.
Right.
And
Get the reps in.
And then I just do a different choice and a different choice. But I know it's not the choice I made before because I'm looking for a different result.
And to grow with anything, there's pain. There is. Yeah.
It's uncomfortable.
Every single thing that progresses has some type of heroic archetype story that it has to go through.
There's a price to be paid for everything.
Right.
If you sit and do nothing, there's a price to be paid for that. If you're willing to work on yourself and do more, there's a price to be paid for that. If you want a body like Brandon's, there's a price to be paid for that, right? What's the price you're willing to pay to have the life of your dreams?
I want to be 6'4".
Yeah, well.
No.
So you're willing to pay that price?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
I don't know exactly how to, what
Shin
metric there is for that.
I don't know what
I'm just
solution.
all legs, dude.
Yeah.
Little tiny arms, short torso.
Reminds me of a Tim and Eric.
So whatever it is in life, right? If you want to have that body, you have to, there's a price, right? You want to be married, there's a price.
Right.
You want to have a kid, there's a price. You want to you want to be a business owner, there's a price. You want to be a postman, there's a price. You want to be a doctor, it doesn't matter. But if you sit and do nothing, you're still paying a price.
And the people like that sit at home and they play video games, they live vicariously through a character, people who read books as well that are fiction stories, right? They're living vicariously through a character. They're attempting to escape their life. And then there's our audience are the people that are willing to take themselves on. They're the people that are willing to hear things and go, that stings. Why does that sting? What can I do to stop that and get a different result?
Well, you can never hit a home run sitting on the bench, right? That's the way it goes. But if you stand in the batter's box, what's the risk?
Swing hard, look foolish, get hit with a pitch,
right?
Make it first.
Right. You take the risk of getting hit with an 80-mile-an-hour fastball. You take the risk of striking out. You get all those things. Everything that is worthwhile is on the field, not on the bench.
Right.
But if you get on the field, right, there's a price to be paid for that. If you sit on the bench, there's a price to be paid for that. See? And it's the same thing, right? Instead of making things happen, participating in things, having a real experience, I'm reading about it or watching it.
And in your life, how many times have you swung for the fences and missed the ball?
Oh my
completely?
God, so many times. My wife said, "You have got to stop risking everything." You know, it's like, because I'm a risk taker.
Right.
You know, so all the time, yeah.
Right. And so anybody that's sitting at home right now listening to this or doing whatever they're doing, and they're going, "Oh, but he doesn't know my," well, okay. I've done it many times myself. I swing as hard as I absolutely can, and I will completely miss that ball by a foot. And then I'll go, all right, still got 2 more of those in the pocket, you know. And if I got to sit down, there's always the next inning.
Right. And there's a great quote, the man in the arena, right? The credit goes to the man in the arena, you know, that point. And so, right. And, you know, and it says the man in the arena, even if he fails while daring greatly so that he will know the greatness of success or the agony of defeat, but he won't be stuck in the stands with those cold, timid souls who know neither.
Right.
So the experience of it is in the doing of it, not the accomplishment.
And if somebody wanted to get coaching from you, how would they reach out to you, Fred?
That's another story, right? So I just tell them, go to the basic seminar, you know, get some stuff going. Because truthfully, it's difficult for me to do coaching because until we have a certain commonality, common language, it's tougher to get there, right?
Roger.
Right, and so it's a lot easier when they have that level of thought, because then then it's performance coaching, not that level. So usually it's people ask me in the basic, hey, I'd like to get your coach. I go, great. As soon as you finish LS, give me a call.
Yeah. Men's leadership.
Yeah, men's or women's leadership, because otherwise it's
get the tools, start practicing.
Right, and then we can play the game.
Yeah.
Right, and so that's typically what I tell people, and then we can work on it, right? But most people, again, what I have found is that there's work to be done. Simple example: I had a guy who wanted me to coach, gave me the $500 down payment. I sent him the forms. He has yet to fill out the forms.
Yikes!
So I don't know what to tell you. You know what I mean? Like at some point, like I'm not going to force you to fill out the forms.
I'll fill out his forms.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
He's already paid for it.
I was going to say, apply that $500 credit to me. Yeah. I'll make you proud, Fred.
Right, that's right. Yeah, it's so funny. It's like, well, there you go.
Yeah.
I had a friend of mine. We grew up 2 doors down. So I don't know. This is probably 10 years ago. He goes, and we're Facebook friends. And he messaged me and he goes, I really have kind of seen the change in your life, all the things that you've done, where you're going, blah, blah, blah. How'd you do it? Or something like that. And I said, well, kind of the catalyst for me, right, of course, was getting sober. But I said, for me, in 2003, I took this seminar. My wife works for the company. I can probably get you a good deal if you want to go. And he says, I can't do that. Why not?
Or won't.
I said, why not? He goes, it's a cult. And I go, do I look like I'm in a cult to you? And by the way, you called me.
Yeah. I love your results. I want to emulate them, but you're in a cult. Yeah.
So there you go. So
it's the results cult.
People want the easy button. And, I think that personal development is simple. It's just not easy.
Right. And that's kind of the marker to go back to the whole cult statement, because I've had people say that to me when I talk to them about it, because I read on the internet, and it's like, well, here's the thing. Cults are easy to get into, super hard to get out of. Doing work with size seminars is the polar opposite, because you can't just
and there's no
walk
self-appointed leader, and there's none of that stuff.
Right.
That's
right.
Congruent with a cult.
Right? At one point, I told somebody I would, which just me being crass as I am, I was like, if this is a cult, I've seen the results. Show me how to make the Kool-Aid. Like, but the truth is like, there's none of that to it. And I've taken time away from, my friends in Psi and stuff like that. And, I still have friends that reach out to me, but nobody's knocking on my door to come, do things with
Go
them.
stand at the airport and sell books. Yeah.
Right. But
Yeah, I'm not signing up for that.
Right. Well, and I always tell people this is not a how-to process, right? This is a philosophy on how to live.
right.
So every person sitting in the room that goes through the exercises has a different response because
Absolutely.
everybody's sitting in a different space. Versus in a cult, everybody's supposed to be doing the same thing. And
Your experience is your own.
right, your own experience. It's not a how-to. I don't know what you should do, Brandon. I don't know what you should do, Eddie. I don't know what anybody should do. Barely know what I should do, right? So, so when people ask me that, I'm like, well, what is it that you want? See, that's the true question. And I ask it all the time, and many people don't know the answer because they've buried their dreams, covered up their dreams, now believe they're not able to get there. They're just trying to get by. A happy day for them is happy hour on Friday, right? That's
cycle of
yeah, that's the
existing.
mentality. Yeah.
Right.
Let's go watch the football game. I'm like, if they took, and nothing against football, right? But if they took football away, it wouldn't change my life one bit.
Same.
But, people are in fistfights in the parking lot over my team didn't win.
The tribalism of, yeah.
I mean, how ridiculous.
Right.
Right? I mean, truthfully, and they're like so distraught when their team loses. I'm like, did you have money on the game or something? I don't know. Like, I was watching football today. Okay, great. I'm impressed with the level of
Athleticism,
what it takes. I like all of that.
structure.
Yeah, I really like all that. I think
But
it's
you're
really
not
cool.
emotionally attached to it.
I don't care. Yeah. They
Well,
win.
no.
I mean, do I want our team to win? Yeah, great. If they don't, like I'm from I watched the Army-Navy game.
Right.
They
Right.
lost. I mean, but
Go Army, beat Navy.
yep. So, but think about that. Those are the best people that we're putting forward in our country.
Right.
A little football game. It was 1 point separation. And so when the game is like that, that just goes to show the high quality of the athletes that are performing, that are out there. So it's the same thing in life. We talked about the difference between a gold medal and a silver medal is oftentimes 100th of a second. Still way better than 99.99999% of the people, right?
Right.
So would you rather live in the top 1% or the bottom 99? You have to ask yourself, how do you want to live? What is it that you want?
And there's a price that you're going to pay to be in that 1% for sure.
Or whatever. Like,
Right.
because some people, it's not about money, right? They want to go do something. Oh, great. Go do it. However, there's a price to be paid.
Right.
You have to be willing to do that. And just because there's a price to be paid doesn't mean that it's bad.
So would you suggest that if somebody's listening right now and they're still at this point lost, maybe sit down, write out what your goals are, and then write your step one?
Well, I wouldn't even write out goals. I would say I would look at your life from the 30,000-foot view. What's the vision you have for your life? Do you even have one?
Right.
Like, step back for a minute, and where would you like to be, Brandon, in 10 years? You don't know how you're going to get there. You don't know the mechanism to get there. But if I had a magic wand, this is what I would like it to look like. See, that's called dreaming. And when you start dreaming, and that's the dream you get tied to, then you're willing to do whatever it takes to get there. Most people gave up on it because of whatever reason or another, that they're not capable, not smart enough, not good, whatever. I don't know. But it's out there. There's plenty of people doing it. Why not you? You can look at lots of great people in the world. Richest woman in the world, J.K. Rowling. You know where she was? Living in her car on food stamps, single mom. Been
Right.
turned down by 12 or 14 publishers. Do you think at some point she could have said to herself, I did my best, and quit? Meatloaf. Anybody remember Meatloaf?
Yeah.
Yes. He was in Fight Club. I'm just kidding.
He had been turned down by 12 record companies. There was a small company called Cleveland International Records took a chance on him. He didn't fit the mold. He didn't have the long hair. He wasn't skinny. He wasn't good looking, any of that, right? So nobody... His debut album, if not the best-selling debut album, one of the best debut out 14 times platinum. Right? Do you think after 5, 6 record companies turning him down, you could go, well, it's not going to work out? Right? I could go down the list, right? Colonel Sanders wasn't a success till he was 60, 65. Goes on and on and on. So people that are tied to their dream, they keep going in spite of what happens to them.
Well, and that's just most people, period. Most people that have had success, they were not just a happenstance or some outlying anomaly that just fell into their lap. I mean, the book Outliers, I mention it quite often because it's a drastic change in life if you're living that, in a way where you're not seeing the results that you want, and then you start to understand there's a formula for success.
Right, and he wrote, Eric Hoffer wrote a quote. It said, in times of change, the learners, people willing to learn, open their mind, will inherit the earth. While the learned, people that already know, will be aptly equipped to handle a world that no longer exists.
Right.
And so are we in times of change? AI, politics, socioeconomic status, economies, right? You can, whatever metric you want to look at, there's an upheaval. And if you're unwilling to do something different, you're going to get left behind.
So shift constantly.
Yeah.
Fred, thank you so much for coming in.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Fred Ozen, ladies and gentlemen.
All right. Thank you.
Stop it, Eddie.